what was the best deal or just the most expensive deal that you closed, and how did you close it?
Yeah, the transaction was 250 million dirhams.
Wow. How long does it take to close it?
Well, that took 6 months, and it really, it wasn't just one person involved, it was multiple heads involved, all with their own knowledge of the specific issue at hand.
Or what are the skills that are needed for a sales guy to be performing in the right track?
I think rapport is number one. You can't immediately go into whatever the offering may be until they understand that you have some kind of common grounds. So that's really very important.
But do you have some networking strategy to reach to those potential clients to sell them?
Well, I think generally speaking, it's always better if it comes inbound from their side, because then they've already researched you, they understand that you may be able to assist with whatever the requirement may be.
Dave, are you ready to unleash?
Very much so.
What's the percentage before we start?
Percentage in terms of?
Unleashing.
101%.
You know that this is one of the most interesting episodes that we'll have. Ask me why.
Why?
I love sales.
Okay.
I adore sales, and I know that you have great experience in sales. But before we start, the first question that I want to ask you, how did you enter sales? And did you choose sales or sales chose you?
I think initially I didn't see myself as a salesperson at all. I guess it came as part of the process, because whether you're dealing B2B, B2C, you still need to keep on selling, no matter what the business is. So even if it's dealing with corporates, again, to maintain the volume, to keep the business operational, you still need to sell your product, your service, whatever it may be. So yeah, being involved in family businesses, it came organically that, okay, you need to also be focused on the incoming side, not just in terms of delivery.
Yeah, I see that you have diversified experience in Gulf and even in many countries. The interesting thing that I want to ask you, is it easy to sell a product or a service?
I think the real key is believing in what you're doing, that there's a purpose behind it. If you feel that you're adding value on the client side, then it's very, very straightforward, because people can see and feel the passion. If they see and feel the passion, they know you're committed. And if they know that you're committed, then it's a very much more simple decision for them.
What are the strategies that you're using it if you face some objections? Because sales objections, it's something that most probably entrepreneurs especially, it could be one of the barriers that they have in their minds. Maybe they face some doubts. If they face the first objection, they will start to doubt themselves and their products and or their services. How do you deal with such objections?
So I think with the vast majority of people, even when they're meeting you, if they've done their research, they still have multiple questions to ask. And the key is, how do you manage those questions? And if you can possibly do so, to preempt the questions that are likely to come. Because if you actually deal with them in a proactive manner, they're already surprised that, okay, they've already answered all the questions that I have in mind. And part of that is reading body language, understanding also in terms of their industry, their background. So that's one of the key things which I try and understand from the outset, is what is their background? The more I research in advance, the more I understand what's their profile, what are they ideally looking for? And that way you're a little bit more prepared.
Do you have any strategies that you're using it just to increase the conversion or the sales closures?
So I think the key is developing rapport. If you develop rapport and you understand certain aspects of that industry already, then that already means that, okay, you're familiar with our topic of conversation. So whether it be private banking, whether it be private equity, the more you actually show that you have some appreciation of the industry, then already you're talking the same language, which makes things that much easier.
High tickets, medium tickets, low tickets, prices, or just products. Do you think that there are some different strategies that will be used in the sales or the sales techniques that you're using it? Is it a big difference between high, low, medium, or you're using the same all?
So in terms of the club, everything is very much kind of straightforward in terms of the different options that we have available. And in that sense, I feel that people understand that there's more value to be within the club than to be outside the club in many respects. When it comes to more business focused opportunities, then I think the key is, again, understanding what is the requirement, what is the opportunity, and also what may they have in mind in terms of price point, etc. So if you understand that you're dealing with a family office, again, the approach will be quite different to private investors or institutional investors. So it really depends on a case-to-case basis.
Yeah.
But the more you understand the background, the more then you can position in a way so you understand it's the right opportunity with the right potential ticket size as well.
Yeah. I saw you that you have also an experience on selling something like private jets and yachts in Doha and Qatar, right? How did you deal with such things? Because I know that these products, it's not easy to sell. It's not just you can put it in e-commerce and ask some people to come and sell. What were the techniques that you're using? Because it's very, very, very high tickets products. What are the techniques or the strategy that you were using to close the deals on high tickets?
Well, in many cases, you're not necessarily going to meet the end client immediately. So normally there is a gatekeeper of some kind. So once you develop rapport with the gatekeeper and they understand that, okay, it's actually going to be a meaningful conversation, then the doors will open. So I remember with one of the very prominent sheikhs in Qatar, it started out by meeting the chief strategy officer, developing trust with him, understanding each other's backgrounds, and then to actually meet with the sheikh himself. It's not normally easy to meet these types of people, but again, if you go through the right protocol, then that allows for the doors to be open, provided there's synergy in terms of that this could be mutually beneficial.
Do you have any networking strategies to reach those people? I wouldn't say that it's a lead generation, but do you have some networking strategy to reach to those potential clients to sell them?
Well, I think generally speaking, it's always better if it comes inbound from their side, because then they've already researched you. They understand that you may be able to assist with whatever the requirement may be. But then, generally speaking, when it comes to the ultra high net worth individuals, you cannot just reach them directly.
Yeah.
And if you also try and reach them directly, it doesn't necessarily give them the right message. So it's always better to go through the strong C-suite team, wherever you have an existing relationship or through a network effectively. That definitely does make a lot of difference.
So you believe that it's better just to use your network to reach those people, not just to pitch on them directly.
Yeah,
right?
It's a step-by-step approach. Because at the end of the day, in that type of level, they probably hear 101 different opportunities. But again, you've got to have some kind of offering that meets their requirement, and then it becomes more meaningful.
Yeah, that's great. You're a sales guru. And can you tell me just what was the best deal or just the most expensive deal that you closed, and how did you close it?
So one was a restructuring deal. Again, I can't mention the company involved.
Okay.
But let's just say it was relatively complicated. It was not going to happen overnight. It took close to 6 months to actually find the solution. And again, that was a combination of legal opinions, then understanding what's happening within the market. But yeah, the transaction was 250 million dirhams.
Wow. How long does it take to close it?
Well, that took 6 months, and it really, it wasn't just one person involved, it was multiple heads involved, all with their own knowledge of the specific issue at hand. And then bringing everything together, it took a lot of patience, but again, it was rewarding for the member in the end.
That's great. So, as a sales, what are the skills that are needed for a sales guy to be performing in the right track?
I think rapport is number one. You can't immediately go into whatever the offering may be until they understand that you have some kind of common grounds. So that's really very important. Is a little bit of patience and also listening. It's very important to understand from their side, what are they looking for, rather than, okay, this is what I'm offering from my side. So it's kind of allowing for it to be a two-way conversation. That's really very, very important, I feel.
How to be patient, because sometimes as an entrepreneur, uh, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they are always pressed under the profits and margins and even
Yeah.
cash flow. And one of the most obvious thing, as you mentioned
Mhm.
before, that people, they feel the energy when you're just eager to close the
Yeah.
deal and show from your body language, from your tonality and all of this stuff. How to control such thing? Because sometimes we are very excited and you need to close this deal, and people, they feel it. How to be patient in such things?
Well, I think thankfully, in terms of Capital Club, it's a
Mhm.
private business members club. It's the only one of its kind. So, in many ways, people understand what it is that is Capital Club. So, it's more a case of evaluating who's potentially looking to join. So, it's
Mhm.
already coming from a position of strength, so to speak. So, it's not something which is just anybody and everybody can actually come and join the club. They have to be the right background, the right industry, the right type of fit in terms of taking membership for the club. So, in that sense, it's not a pressure conversation ever. It's more a case of understanding that would they
Mhm.
be the right fit. So, it's very different to selling other products and services in many ways, because what we're offering is a platform for them to grow.
Mhm.
And if you believe in what you're offering and that it is unique and that it is something that will be of benefit, then again, sometimes it's better to do in a more relaxed manner.
Mhm.
So I'd say the same applies to when you buy a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari. At the end of the day, the product speaks for itself.
Mhm. You mentioned about Capital Club, and it's one of the famous clubs here in UAE. What are the screening process or just the processes that you're using it if anybody or any entrepreneur wants to join?
So, entrepreneurs are more than welcome in terms of the application process for the club.
Mhm.
C suite executives, ministers, ambassadors, consul generals, and then obviously we have a number of owners of major conglomerates as well within the club as well. Yes, we have a board of directors approval process, etc. The key is really understanding is there synergy in terms of their approach, how
Mhm.
the club operates. And that's quite easy to tell from the initial conversation.
Mhm. So in that case, how do you make sure that there is a law of reciprocity between all the members inside the club itself? Because sometimes we are passionate, and one of the things that I always remember from Gary Vee,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of if you are an entrepreneur, give, then you can ask, right?
Yes.
And how do you make sure that this culture inside the capital club is maintained in the right way?
So we try and foster for members to meet one another through various different events. So we have a number of business events on different topics every
Mm.
month. Then we also have a significant number of social events, whether it be jazz evenings, etc.
Mhm.
So the key is creating that environment where everybody's comfortable, they're open to network in a very relaxed, casual manner, and then explore synergy. So that's really the purpose of the club. It's not about distributing business cards left, right, and center. It's a very different kind of
Uh-huh.
approach in that respect. So the key I find is how you network.
Mhm.
It's all well and good potentially attending different events.
Mhm.
Are you necessarily going to have value in terms of making the right connections? I think the key is how you deal with networking because it's a skill in itself.
Yeah. How did you enter Capital Club?
So that's an interesting question. So basically 9 years ago, we'd moved to Dubai. We'd settled down, children at school, and they were going to Repton Al Barsha at that time.
Mhm.
And then we were invited for one of the evening events through the school. So it was a casual dinner for parents.
Mhm.
So we attended, and next to myself and my wife was sitting with an Emirati gentleman and his wife.
Mhm.
And naturally, the conversation eventually turned to business and then understanding about our power business in Tanzania.
Mhm.
The following day, then he called me and he said, come to Capital Club.
Oh.
So
Mhm.
I had no knowledge that Capital Club even existed at that point
Mhm.
because Capital Club has always been by word of mouth in terms of from members inviting guests, etc.
Mhm.
So once I researched Capital Club, then I was more than happy to go there. And it was a very, very fruitful initial meeting because, again, I understood then that him opening up some of his network had considerable value in terms of some of the activities I was doing on behalf of the power plant.
That's great. So, what was your position before Capital Club? What was the position that you have had before it?
So always been involved in family businesses. So I studied at St Andrews University as an economist, and then immediately straight into family business. So that was automotive manufacturing, rubber and plastic components, which resulted in us then moving to Australia, then back to the UK, and then exposed to the power sector in terms of the acquisition of a 100 megawatt power plant in Tanzania.
Wow.
And that eventually resulted in us moving to Dubai.
Wow. And if I ask you, what is the most important value that you're maintaining inside Capital Club?
I think it's really important to understand that everybody needs to maintain their privacy and to respect each other's privacy. So that's priority number one. Above and beyond that, for it to be a welcoming environment where, we have so many expats who are moving to Dubai, so many expats who are members of the club. So it's being in a place that kind of fosters that comfort for people to interact with one another, to make new friends. It's not always purely about business, but also to surround yourself amongst like-minded people. So that's really essential in terms of how Capital Club operates, that you're amongst almost a trusted circle, whether it be legal, accounting, incorporation. When it comes to any kind of advice related to your business, that you have the right points of contact.
What's the difference between working for a family, like what you have had before, and today? What's the difference?
So I see that a lot of the skills that I developed during my time within family businesses, I'm now translating into how Capital Club is evolving in different avenues. Because again, previously I was always focused on what do I need for my company? What do I need for the family company? Who do I need to meet as a result of that? So again, I feel that especially in a place like Dubai, where everybody is very much focused on developing their business, how to grow, it's about meeting those right types of people where there is mutual synergy. So that's really the key in terms of when you understand the members and their different business aspirations, and then they can be aligned to actually meet one another. That's really something which is my main focus. Yeah.
If anybody that just listening to us right now, staying in Dubai or in UAE, and they want to just join the Capital Club, what's the call to action to go and join?
Best is probably to actually go onto the website, capitalclubdubai.com, and then you'll also understand more in terms of the way we operate, all the different facilities, etc. And then you can actually apply for membership application. From that point, then we make contact if we feel it's the right fit, potentially for the club, to then actually see the facilities, understand how we operate, and then take it to the next level.
I love Capital Club right now. So can I ask you how Capital Club and with your experience shaped the character that you have it today?
So I think every day is a case of absorbing, learning from other members, what are their business interests, because again, it's jumping from conversation to conversation, and there are so many different business verticals in Dubai that there's so much that you can learn as a result of that. The more you understand, the more it kind of broadens your horizons in a way. So rather than only being focused in one specific industry, now it's very much a case of understanding different avenues of business in many ways.
If I ask you an interesting question, if there is an offer 5x what you take now today from Capital Club, another where will you leave Capital Club?
So I'm very much focused on the purpose of Capital Club. I think it's become far more than just a place to work from. I think with the leadership of our chairman, it really is a case of just a great place where you can actually enjoy your time above and beyond only focusing on the work aspects. So it's become like a second home in many ways.
That's amazing. In terms of taking risks, I love, because if you're working in sales, definitely most of your life, you're taking risks.
Yeah.
What is that situation, the most risk that you have had in your life?
So I think one of the most challenging situations was when I was looking at how we were going to run the power plant in the first case. And I remember there was a lot of pressure from the OEM at that point where they wanted to run the operations and maintenance. And that's a very lucrative contract. So again, it was a case of understanding, so what are the potential risks of engaging them? What would be the potential costs? And then actually taking that chance to say, no, I'll find a way to run the operations and maintenance in-house. So again, it was a little bit daunting for sure, but again, it was very much eye-opening in terms of learning A to Z of the sector, procurement, and then the day-to-day operations as well. And we successfully managed.
That's amazing. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind you?
So I think it's always about the next generation. And, every day I find that I'm learning from my children. They're now 10 and 12 years old. My wife is very much guiding them on the right path, because I find that the key is for them to understand that nothing comes without hard work. You need to have the right kind of mentality and work ethic. And if you do that and you stay positive, then the results should come. But again, it's maintaining that focus always.
What do you want for your children? Do you want them to be an entrepreneurs or take the other path inside corporate?
I think it really has to come from them. Because again, if you drive your children into a specific direction, that could quite easily backfire, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own passion. So whether my son wants to be a footballer or whether he's more gifted in music, it's really down to him as to what is his calling. So I guess for now, the key is to allow for them to explore, find what are their skill sets. And I think if you're very good at something and you're passionate about it, then, the money will come as a result of that.
But if you wish, for your children, will they be here or there?
Well, I would like them to be more business focused. But again, in terms of which industry or sector, I can't really pin that down at the moment, because they like, if my son is gifted in AI or machine learning or a specific skill set, then again, he can then translate that into business opportunities. That's what I'd like to see. But yeah, in terms of a specific sector, I think it's so early still. They're 10 and 12. They're still exploring, still learning a lot about themselves every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Last question that I want to ask you, if there is an entrepreneur, they are listening, or just entrepreneurs, they are listening to us right now, they have great idea, great thought or great innovation. They tried multiple times to work on it, but it doesn't work. What is your best advice to them?
So I think the key for entrepreneurs is to be resilient. And having 9 or 10 failures does not mean that you won't succeed the next time round. So, it's just a case of almost seeing whatever was a failure or not being successful as in the past, and every time that you're looking at something new, that is a clean slate. Because often you find that people go from 0 to 100, and then they find themselves in an obstacle or a difficult position. Then they manage to rebuild themselves. So it's not, I don't think it's a case of as an entrepreneur that you can take failure as time to call it quits. So resilience, I think, is the most important.
Thank you, Dev, for your amazing time. Really, I wish you all the best, and I'm sure also with your authenticity and your power in sales, you will take Capital Club to another place more and more and more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Unleash is the bridge between my purpose and my mission. And my mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential.